Hello! Reminder, this is a video, so pause it anytime you need to or go back if you miss anything. First pause and copy down the first example. Now I want you to ask yourself, what type of equations do I have here? Because this is not a linear system. Therefore, I cannot use the calculator to check with that handy-dandy tool that I've shown you either. So the first equation is a circle, and the second equation is a parabola. Now I'm going to use substitution to do this, but if you notice, I have x squared and y squared in the first equation, x squared and y in the second equation. If I get y by itself in the second one, that would be less work. However, then when I plug it back in, I'd have to square it. So what I can do on this problem is I could just get x squared alone, and then I can substitute in to x squared here. So I'm going to take the second equation and add y. So I get x squared equals y plus 7. And now where I see x squared, I'm going to substitute in y plus 7. And I don't have to square it because I'm plugging it in for x squared. So that's going to give me y plus 7, and then copy the rest of that first equation, plus y squared equals 13. Now I still am left with a quadratic, so I still have a y squared, which means I need to get all my terms on one side, and then I'm going to either have to factor or use the quadratic formula or complete the square. So if I rewrite this in the correct order, I have y squared plus y plus 7 equals 13, and then subtract over my 13, I get y squared plus y minus 6 equals 0. Pause the video, factor that, and find the y values. Hopefully you got y equals -3 and y equals 2. Now I'm going to have to do the substitution here, but I have to do it twice, and make sure you stay organized for this. You need to know what y value you're plugging into each one. So I'm going to use the second equation, x squared minus y equals 7, to find the x's. So now find our x values, and we're going to use x squared minus y because y isn't squared there, equals 7. So let's start with y equals -3. So that's x squared minus -3 equals 7, or x squared plus 3 equals 7. Subtract your 3 on both sides, you get x squared equals 4, and square root. But now think about this. If I take the square root of both sides, what do I need? You need plus or minus. So this x is really plus or minus 2, which ends up giving me two different points, plus or minus 2, comma, -3. One point is +2, -3, and the other point is -2, -3. Now I want you to pause the video and do the same thing for y equals 2. So hopefully you got that x was equal to plus or minus 3, which means plus or minus 3, comma 2 is our points, which is really just 3, 2, and -3, 2. So in this case, we have 4 answers. Well, go back to what we said the shapes were. The first equation was a circle, and the second equation was a parabola. A circle and a parabola can have 4 intersection points, if you think about it. Now, we also need to check our work. So to check it, you're going to plug back each coordinate into both equations. So we're going to substitute it into x squared plus y squared equals 13, and we're going to substitute it into x squared minus y equals 7. So I'm going to start with 2, -3. If I plug in 2 squared plus -3 squared, do I get 13? Well, 4 plus 9, yes, is 13, so that one is good. And then x squared is 2 squared minus -3 equals 7. 2 squared is 4, minus negative becomes a plus 3, and yes, 4 plus 3 equals 7. So now I want you to take the other 3 coordinates and do the same thing. Pause the video and resume it once you've finished that. So hopefully you got that they all checked out. Looks good. Therefore, those 4 answers are our 4 solutions to that system. moving on to example 2, pause the video and copy it down. So in this case, I have y squared on top and y squared on the bottom. So I'm going to get y squared alone on the top one, and then I'm going to substitute it into y squared on the second one. So if I get y squared alone on the top one, I subtract that whole parenthesis x minus 4 squared. So I'm going to have 4 minus x minus 4 squared. Now I'm going to plug this into y squared on the bottom. So when I do that, I have x squared minus 8x plus 4 minus x minus 4 squared equals negative 12. Okay, now the next thing you need to do is take care of this x minus 4 squared. So multiply that out, pause the video, and then restart it once you've done that. You should have gotten x squared minus 8x plus 4 minus, and then I have x squared minus 8x plus 16, and the reason I put that in a parenthesis is because now I have to distribute this negative in. So it gives me x squared minus 8x plus 4 minus x squared plus 8x minus 16 equals negative 12. Now if I combine my like terms, what's x squared minus x squared? See ya, those are gone. Negative 8x plus 8x, again, gone. And I'm left with 4 minus 16. Well, that gives me negative 12 equals negative 12. Now think back to your work with systems. What does that mean? Well, that means there's infinitely many solutions because negative 12 always equals negative 12. It's always true. So therefore, there are infinitely many solutions, meaning that those equations were the same circle. So every point on the circle is a solution. Alright, you are all set with the first 2 examples. Move on to the next video for the last one.